I'm going to start this week the same way I started last week. Divisional Round weekend has come and gone. AFC Championship weekend is here. And since I'm still here, that must mean the Bills advance to the AFC Championship. And they did. They defeat the Baltimore Ravens, the sexy, fun, best team in the league, biggest threat to the Chiefs, Lamar Jackson, MVP, All-Pro, Derrick Henry, future Hall of Fame running back. Who's going to stop them? The Bills are. Okay? The Bills are. I don't think so. Bills in the AFC Championship. First time since the 2020 season. Playing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. Fourth time they're going to meet that team in the last 5 postseasons. We know what's happened the previous 3. The Bills are 0-3. Why is this year going to be any different? I'm not certain that it will be. But here we are. We're taking another shot at it. And if you're a Chiefs fan watching this video, you're probably just thinking, feels like a regular AFC Championship weekend to us. We're in this game every year. It's 7 years in a row now. It's pretty par for the course. Buzz off. Okay? I'm entitled to feel this way. If you haven't had Mahomes or Brady the last 2 decades, you haven't felt this way with any regularity. Okay? So, I'm certainly entitled to feel this way. Bills fans are. The Bills are themselves. It's been a grind. The whole offseason where we're saying goodbye to veterans who've been on this team forever, and we are being doubted, ridiculed in the media, like, oh, it's going to take superhero performance from Josh Allen. We get the superhero performances from Josh Allen. He's not going to win MVP anyway. But here we are. We defeated the guy that's going to win MVP over our quarterback. He can have it. He can have it now. I don't care for it. We've defeated them. But let's talk about the game. Before we talk about the Chiefs, let's talk about the Ravens. Because I'm going to be honest with you, the Ravens kind of outplayed the Bills for most of the game. The Bills couldn't stop them. The Ravens stopped themselves. And that doesn't mean, I'm not trying to get into this like, oh, the Ravens lost the game more than the Bills won it. No, the Bills forced turnovers. The Bills did a great job forcing turnovers. They're very good at forcing turnovers. And that is sort of a cause for concern for me. Because I can't help but feel like, what if they don't? What if they go into the game against the Chiefs and they don't force the turnovers that they've been living and dying by? They've won the turnover battle in like an NFL record 21 straight games, or haven't lost it. It's been even or they've won it in 21 straight games. It's something that doesn't seem sustainable, but it has been for them. However, I can't get this thought out of my head. What if they don't get them? Because Kansas City hasn't turned the ball over in like 8 consecutive games. Kansas City's last turnover, in fact, was in Week 11 against the Bills. Patrick Mahomes' game-ending interception to Terrell Bernard. That was the last time they turned the ball over. And the only game they've lost since was a meaningless Week 18 game against Denver, in which they basically completely laid down. They had 5 first downs. Kansas City got outplayed in their own right, too, to be honest with you, against Houston. Both the Bills and the Chiefs were massively outgained by their opponents, but they both walked away victorious. Anyway, back to the Ravens. And the turnovers. They forced 2 turnovers from Lamar. The first time all season, he's turned the ball over twice in a game. But he was pretty good. He threw for 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. And when he had time, and there were some dropbacks where he had a ton of it, he picked the Bills apart. They had long completions left and right. Likely had a few nice ones. Mark Andrews, despite the fact that he basically lost the game for the Ravens, had a couple of nice ones. Bateman had 2 really good ones. Tylan Wallace even. Anthony Miller converted a 3rd down for 16 yards. Bills didn't have a ton of answers defensively. And this is something I've talked about previously. I worry about the defense's ability to get stops when they're behind. Fortunately, one of those Lamar turnovers came when it was 7-7. Von Miller recovered it. It was the DeMar Hamlin sack that led to a fumble. Lamar basically kind of just, the ball slipped out of his hands. And Von Miller recovers, takes it back to the Baltimore 24, and the Bills score, and they never look back. They never were trailing ever again in the game. Really good job, obviously, by the defense there. And this is, bend but don't break is the kind of thing people talk about all the time. That's kind of what it was. But it was sweaty. It was sweaty, no doubt, because the Bills, despite the 21-10 lead at halftime, they had this opportunity to receive the third quarter kickoff, which they obviously do, and they can really start driving nails into the coffin for the Ravens. And what do? Nothing. I mean, they do nothing with the football. It takes the Mark Andrews punch out by Terrell Bernard to even get 3 points on the board. And then, much to their credit, when it was 24-19, the defense does get a stop. That's it. The Bernard fumble, because they didn't make a punt all day long. The Ravens moved the ball up and down the field pretty much at will. The only stops were the 3 turnovers. But the Bills, following that turnover, were able to get a field goal. I do think the field goal is the right decision there. I know a touchdown and the game is definitely over, but if you kick the field goal, you make it 27-19, you can't lose. You're putting the Ravens in this situation where they have to do this thing. They have to get the touchdown. They have to get the 2-point conversion, and they have to do it in 3.5 minutes. Time really wasn't a factor. 3.5 minutes we knew wasn't going to be a factor anyway. That's plenty of time, but because they did it in 2, and they made it look pretty easy down the field. I mean, it was just, they didn't even run the ball. They didn't have to run the ball. I thought they were going to mix in a run when they got down to like the 25 or wherever they were. Might have even been, somewhere around there. Whatever. They're in Bills territory, approaching the red zone, and I thought they might even like mix a run in here and run some clock off because it felt like they were going to score. And I thought maybe they'll just kind of like, hey, this is pretty much it for us. If we do tie the game, we don't want the Bills to have that much time left. Because when they did when they did score the touchdown, and it's 27-25, my first thought is, wow, there's a minute and a half left, and the Bills have 2 timeouts. I would rather be the Bills right now, but hey, let's get the stop on the 2-point conversion. The Ravens ran a really nice play on the 2-point conversion, and they get Andrews open, and he drops the ball. What can you do? You take those. They called the right play. The Bills didn't really have it defended that well. I mean, it's only a play that's designed to gain 2 yards. That's what it would have done, and Andrews drops it. The Ravens have gone out in some pretty gross, disgusting ways over the years. The Tyler Huntley fumble on the QB sneak that was returned by Sam Hubbard for the touchdown, that comes to mind. The Lee Evans drop, that was a ton of years ago at this point, that comes to mind. They lost in the AFC Championship last year to Kansas City as well. They've had some rough ones, no doubt. This is just another one to add to the list. But like I just said, we take those. Okay. My real complaint, I guess, from the Bills would be the offensive game plan. I didn't feel like it was, maybe it's designed this way to be clock controlling, kind of like how they beat Denver the previous week. They wanted to be clock controlling and just kind of beat Baltimore at their own game, really. But everything on first down was a run. It felt so predictable. When it wasn't a run, it was mostly a screen pass or a swing pass to James Cook. I know he only had 3 catches for 15 yards. Ty Johnson added 1 for 8. But like Khalil Shakir, 6 for 67, and his big one, 34 yards. That was on the first drive, the third play from scrimmage for the Bills. Dalton Kincaid had 1 catch. It was in the first quarter. Mac Hollins had 1 catch. It might have been on a 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 10 or something like that. It was a big catch that helped move the ball along for the Bills. It was needed. Keon Coleman just 1 catch. Amari Cooper just 1 target. Allen was efficient, 16 of 22 through the air, but just 127 yards. And I mean, if you're telling me 127 yards is what Josh Allen's going to end up with, I'm probably picking the Ravens by 24. But they made it work. Turnovers. Name of the game. If somebody over the years, I've heard it on, sports radio locally, like WGR, like, oh, punts and turnovers, those are the same things. Yeah, kind of. You're giving the ball to the other team, but I'm not sure it really works the same way because there's just field position that goes into it. There's points off turnovers that go into it. Of course, there's points off punts as well. But the reason so many coaches prefer punts to turnovers, of course, is the flip of field position. And the Bills, their strategy throughout the entire McDermott era is to make you earn your way up the field. Pin them deep, not necessarily, but make them get 5, 6 first downs on their way up the field. If they're going to score against you, they're going to work for it. It's been a pretty effective strategy for them. because they haven't had the most talented defenses. They have no Pro Bowlers. They have no All-Pros, on that side of the ball. So, that goes to show you. And they've been pretty good. They've been pretty good. They haven't been elite. They've been pretty good. They've been elite at forcing turnovers. And again, where that worries me is, what if they don't this week against Kansas City? So let's talk about Kansas City. I mentioned earlier Kansas City coming off a game where they weren't super impressive either. Mahomes, almost all of Mahomes' yardage went to Kelsey. Kelsey had 7 for 117, and what did Mahomes end up with? It was 177. So he only had 60 yards elsewhere, and 45 of those were to Xavier Worthy. DeAndre Hopkins, 1 target, nothing. Marquise Brown, 2 targets, nothing. Juju Smith-Schuster, 1 target, nothing. 10 of 16 completions to Kelsey and Noah Gray. There's 130 yards there, 45 more to Xavier Worthy, and then 1 check down to Kareem Hunt. That's it. The difference was their defense. They sacked C.J. Stroud 8 times. And that gives me a little bit of PTSD to the previous AFC Championship, where the Bills could not control the Chiefs' pass rush. Namely Chris Jones, it felt like. And he's still there. They now have Karlaftis, who's still there. I'm struggling with where I want to take this conversation, because I can just name all the players on the Chiefs like I just started doing, and it just got into my brain, like, why am I doing this? We know who they are. We know who we're playing. We play them every single year. We're 4-1 in them against the regular season with Josh Allen, the Josh Mahomes battle. 4-1 in the regular season, 0-3 in the postseason. You have to do something about that. And I think this past week's game plan, if you employ that again, where you just try to nickel and dime the Chiefs, I think you will lose. I think that is an attempt to out Kansas City, if that makes sense. Don't do that. They will beat you if you try to do that. That is purposely keeping the game close, and they're at home. They might get some weird calls, okay, but also on the referee thing, miss me with, like, the rigging of it, okay? I don't want to hear that. Like, does Mahomes were those 2 calls in the Houston game terrible? Yes, I think they were terrible, okay? Were they done on purpose to, like, rig the game for Mahomes? No. Is there some league-wide conspiracy to get Patrick Mahomes back to the Super Bowl? No. Home teams get calls. It's just what happens. The Bills got one this past week. Again, the DPI on Trey White, on Keon Coleman. Come on. Let's be real. Was the holding call on Deion Dawkins bad? Yes, it was. The officiating, that's my overall point. The officiating is pretty much bad every week in every game. You only notice it because it's the Chiefs, and you don't like them. And the difference is, the good teams with good quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, when they get these lucky breaks, they will make you pay for it. They will go down the field and score. They'll be like, well, there's a huge missed opportunity. And the bad teams, or just the losing teams, the teams that blow it, have blown it. They'll get these lucky breaks, they'll get these lucky calls, and they do nothing with them. And you never think about them again because they did nothing. I've made this point a bunch of times on this channel, but hopefully I'm reaching a different audience or more audience this time. And I think it's important to keep making it, because there's just this huge narrative or belief that, the officials have it out for the teams that are playing the Chiefs. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I do think there is a league-wide protection for quarterbacks, maybe even the better ones. Josh Allen is part of that sometimes. Don't pretend he hasn't flopped and got a call. He's done it multiple times throughout his career. Anyway, what was I saying? The out KC and KC. I think you need big plays. Okay, I don't need to run the ball 90% of the time on first down. I don't need to see that. If it's effective here and there, yes, fine. Works. I want chunk plays. That's how I think you got to do it. I would be aiming to score 38 points, and not by just ball control, make it a possession for possession game. We'll just score on ours. Hopefully we'll stop them on theirs. No, that is, again, trying to play their game. And I think you will lose doing that. They have won 3 Super Bowls with Reed and Mahomes doing that. They've been to 4. They've been in the AFC Championship 7 years in a row. Think outside the box a little bit. I got to get out of it. I got to be done. I got to be done with this. I don't know what the Bills are going to do differently. I'm just offering you my opinion. Obviously, both teams are going to look a little bit different than they did in the Week 11 matchup. Milano will be there. Coleman will be there. Spencer Brown will be there. That's different because they were all out in the first matchup. Pacheco was out for Kansas City. I'm missing somebody else, too, that was out, and I apologize that I can't think of who that was off the top of my head. But it's Mahomes. It's Kelsey. We know what's in front of us. And if you go in there with the same plan you've tried to beat them with the past 3 postseasons, I really don't like their odds. I might not like their odds to begin with. I think the Bills are kind of this week's sexy, fun. Oh, the Chiefs are going down. Why? Because we believe that this is the worst Chiefs team of the past, of the Mahomes era. I mean, they've won 16 games. They've only lost 1 game that counted. It was to the Bills. It was to the Bills. By 9 points. By 2 scores. Man. I need to see it. I can't pick it until I see it, so I'm picking the Chiefs. 23-20. I hate myself for it. I really hope I'm talking to you next week about the Super Bowl. I really hope so. Guys, hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle and YouTube username are the same. Enjoy your weekend. As always, above all else, go Bills.